So good day guys, by today we'll be discussing about SLA Service Level Agreement and Licensing Model. It is very simple and it may be sound similar but both are different. They are distinct. So what is SLA? As I told, it's a Service Level Agreement and it purely speaks about the contract between the consumer, that is one who is going to use the cloud service, and at the end the service provider. It defines what the service and how they are going to deliver it. So earlier it was very customizable, that based on the user the SLA agreement will be made, but now the cloud service was utilized across all the people in the world, and the service provider or an international company, it became a globalization. So now more or less the SLA will be common for most of the users. And does this SLA have a legal binding? Somewhat, some of the SLAs having the legal binding means if they are not adhering to the agreement, both the parties, then they'll be facing some legal consequences. But not all the agreement or not all the SLA have the legal binding. Some are termed as a OLA, operating level agreement. So the difference is the SLA, it's a service level agreement which will be having the legal binding to some extent, or which is not having the legal binding, we term them as a operating level agreement. So get the difference. But here we are going to discuss this SLA only, service level agreement, right? So coming to the basic components of the SLA: service availability by the service provider, how much they are going to guarantee of the service they are going to provide. Then response time, it is very important in the cloud service. Say for an example, if you are hitting some word in the Google search engine or anywhere in your YouTube, then how much a response, right, you are getting a faster for your request that has been made. That is very important. And reliability, each time you are depending on some search engine or ChatGPT, right, how much you can reliable on it, how all the time it is going to give some, you may speak about anything, the response is going to give in, or without delay how it's going to give. Everything comes with this reliability. Responsibility, the service provider have promised something, that these are the responsibility of them that they are going to do for their own customer, like service support and so on. And warranties means for the product what they are giving, they provide some warranties that at any cost you can depend on the application what we are providing you as a service. So if something happens negatively, then we'll be giving with you some compensation like that. The warranty will be provided. And penalties, if they are not adhering to the all set things in the SLA, then it can be of a compensation, it can be of an extension of a period of a agreement, or like an insurance company what they are used to compensate their things, right? So now a pure real-time example is a AWS, because that was widely used across, even at SRM we are using it. So like AWS always promise their customer they are going to give them uptime as a 99% to 99.9%. If they are dropping below the 99%, then they'll be said to be breaching the agreement, and they'll be doing a compensation. First understand what is uptime. Uptime is nothing, it's nothing but how the service reliability they are going to give to the customer. So technically it can say uptime is equal to error rate by request. So usually it calculated in the 5 minutes interval. So you can understand, right? Say for an example, if you are using some AWS service, right, whenever you are using the service should be very prompt enough to respond to the request you have made. If error is coming, then that is each time the error coming will be measurable. And Amazon is promising the error rate altogether. So for a month, right, for a month it should be less than 1%, right, less than 1%. If it is greater than the percent, then the penalty will be imposed to the service provider, that is over AWS over here. And license model, pay as you go, whatever you're utilizing, for that alone you'll be paying, and that is a subscription based model, like 1 month, lifelong, like that. So these are the general example. So important aspect of the SLA, as I told you, uptime, it speak about a service availability and request handling, and two factors that always influence uptime is a service availability and request handling, remember. And service without any interruption, that is a promise by any cloud service provider. And the key components of the SLA: uptime guarantee, performance metric, penalties for breach, support levels. Uptime guarantee they are promising, like AWS, they are promising 99% to 99.99%. They are guaranteeing their uptime performance metric. Each time the service that is provided by the cloud will have our own metric system to measure how they are meeting out the agreement. Penalties for breaching: if the metric says they are dropping down to the you know SLA, then the penalties will be imposed. And support: the customer support that is provided by the cloud service provider. Types of licensing model: subscription based or perpetual. Perpetual means lifelong, like that is a lifelong subscription. User based, so based on the user, if one user might be using the application only in the mobile, then the user will be using mobile based application. Some may be using desktop, some may be using hybrid, both mobile and desktop, like this. Device based: some say that I want to use a user-based license. And now the some says that I want to use two laptop, one mobile device for using a one storage device. So like device-based licensing can also be utilized. Concurrent licensing: so sometime suppose I'm getting the Amazon Prime membership and I'm sharing my own credential to someone who is in different country, then he also can use. So concurrent licensing I'm getting, but he can also use, because the number of users allowed in this my own membership is 3. So anywhere from any other region can also use because of the concurrent licensing. So simple example for the Prime membership, you can also explore when you go for the Prime Amazon shopping. You can find all those Prime membership subscription details. So this is the clear explanation for the SLA and licensing model. So again, out of box, right? Neo Cloud, it is provided by NVIDIA for the very high performance or super high performance for the data center for the Amazon. And other service model available apart from IaaS, PaaS, SaaS and FaaS, STaaS is there. Storage as a service, DBaaS, database as a service, CaaS, container as the service, DaaS, desktop as a service. These are the other service or advanced service model available over cloud computing device. So this is what you have done in the quick work in the class time, like how the AWS is imposing the SLA, how licensing model helps the user and benefiting them, and customer support given by them, and so on, right? Coming to the last two content of the first unit, that is capital expense followed by right sizing. So capital expense, so the term is easy to understand. The initial investment for any software related business you're going to do, or any your own company, you need some software application setup in order to make your company to be work or competitive to the current environment. So you need a capital investment for buying all those equipment, that is called capital expense, and shortly it is called capex. But this cloud service making this capex to be removed and gives the opex, operating expense. Only you'll have to pay for the operating you are doing. So risk is very less when we are going for the cloud service, because we are setting up initially with a very high investment and you're not meeting out that much business, then all the infrastructure setup will get into the loss. And startup and growth, usually the startup company will prefer this because they no need invest much on the beginning, and the growth also will be very high because the startup don't need to invest on all those basic this application system environment investment. Rather they can put onto their growth level. Variable demand, that is seasonal demand. One particular company might not use one application throughout the year with so much request. Say for an example, an account company, they might use the particular application that they borrowed from the cloud service only for the 1 or 2 months per year. We'll see detail in the next slide. So legacy system cost, expensive legacy system, reducing the costs associated with the infrastructure maintenance, means some inherited cost for the generic database storage container like Oracle or high-end server. You need to go for buy that is a basic infrastructure like things, right? So this legacy system is not required when you go for the cloud service. At last we end with the right sizing. So based on the demand, based on the requirement, based on the user need, the right sizing of the usage is done in the cloud service. Here look at this graph. So one particular account company, they are using that particular application very higher during between the month of April or March and April, because consider an audit company, right? They won't have the number of users to use the application, or they themselves are not using the application to compute the tax audit throughout all the months of the year, because only during the end of the tax paying, only by that time they'll be using it. So this happens, and this is a flexible and right sizing for the customers. So this is how you know introduction to right sizing capital expenditure. Then we have seen this SLA and licensing modeling has been done. Happy learning. Bye.